We continue to dive deeper into project management, and now we're going to talk about scope management. Managing the scope of a project is a tricky business. It's your role as the project manager, but it's tricky, and it takes experience over time to know how to manage scope well. Remember, scope is one of the project constraints we talked about earlier. If the scope starts to widen, then the time on the project goes up, the cost of the project goes up. It's one of the project constraints. Now, how many times have you heard it before where a project manager will say, oh, this client's driving me crazy. They keep adding, we want this and we want this function, we want that page. This is all a form of scope creep, which we'll be talking about as well. So managing scope is tricky. And there's a process to it. There's a process to scope management because it's not simply saying, yep, this is the scope of the project, off we go. No, there's a process to it. First, we need to plan, but not plan what the scope is. No. We need to plan how we're going to manage the scope. Be careful here. This is where I sit down with the team and we go through it together and say, all right, we need to plan how we're going to understand what the scope is. Are we going to set up meetings with the client? Are we going to talk to, let's say, the portfolio manager or the program manager to understand more? How are we going to manage changes to that scope? How are we going to make sure we are on track with the scope of the project, that we are delivering what is within the scope of the project? This is all part of that planning stage. It's not what we're going to do, it's how we're going to do it. After we're done planning, next we need to go out and actually collect requirements. How can I possibly define what the scope is if I didn't collect requirements from the customer, from the client? I need to talk with the client. I need to first understand, hey, what is it that you're looking for? And then from there, we can start to define the scope, define what this project will deliver, define more specifically boundaries. This is what the project will deliver. This is what it will not deliver. We will deliver a website consisting of a homepage, an about us, and a contact page. We are not delivering e-commerce integration. You need to clearly not only define the scope, what you're doing, but define the boundaries. These are the limits of what I'm doing. Because the scope is connected to time, it's connected to cost, it's connected to quality, right? Project constraints. Once I've defined the scope, I can then develop what's known as a WBS, or a work breakdown structure. And we're going to talk about it in a second, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a structure that outlines what all the different work packages are to develop that scope, to deliver that final deliverable. The steps I need to take in order to produce that deliverable, to deliver on the scope that I have for the project. Once a work breakdown structure is developed, I need to validate the scope. I need to constantly be checking, hey, am I still delivering what's within the scope? Am I delivering it to the expected quality by the client? It's very similar to the monitor and control phase of the project lifecycle, which we see pop up quite a lot. And finally, I need to control this scope. I need to make sure that I have tight control over the scope, that it doesn't get too wide from me, because scope changes as you go through the project. It changes. And you want to control those changes very, very incrementally. Not all change is bad, and we're going to talk about scope creep in a bit. Not all change is bad, but you need to make sure that you're controlling changes. Right, so let's take a step back and talk about the work breakdown structure. This is essentially what it ends up looking like, a tree, right? And if you start using project management software, such as MS Project, you're going to need to know how work breakdown structures work really well, because they form the core of project management software. When you're scheduling activities, you need to define what these activities are. You need to define what these work packages are. So in this example, for example, I have a website upgrade sitting at the top. That is what I'm doing, the overall objective. I can break it down into separate work packages or activities. I can say I have design, I have development, and I have content to build in. Okay, for me to design, what do I need to do to complete that design activity? Well, I need to design a homepage and an about us page. So you keep breaking it down. Now be very careful. It's a fine line of how detailed your work breakdown structure is. If it's too detailed, it's too broken down. So if I take this homepage and I start breaking it down into develop the hero or the header section of the homepage, develop the footer section, develop this, develop. If I start breaking it down too granularly, it's going to be difficult to stay on top of. It's going to be difficult to manage as a schedule because your work breakdown structure ends up transforming into a schedule. But if it's too vague, if there's not enough levels in there, you don't know what you're doing. If you stop it at, let's say, the level of design what? What am I supposed to do? So work breakdown structure is really useful because it can take your scope and it can start to break it down into the different activities and different work packages that you need to perform to produce that final deliverable. Really, really useful. Now, let's talk about managing scope changes. So from the very beginning, you need to make sure, first of all, that your requirements are clear. You've collected requirements and you've defined the scope very, very clearly. Remember what we said, not only have you defined what you're going to do, but you've defined what you're not going to do, the boundaries of your scope. We need to watch out for scope creep. Now, scope creep is not always bad. There are certain things that if you add them to the scope of the project, they may save you a lot of time later on. Hey, you know what? It might actually cost us a lot less if we simply, instead of upgrading the code that runs this pump, we just replace this pump. Because I know that there's in future going to be a project to replace this pump eventually. So instead of taking on all that costs later on, it's going to cost me very little to simply add it to this project. Very arbitrary example. But what I'm trying to get you to think about is not all scope creep is bad. Some scope creep can be good. It can save you a lot of time and money and effort later on if you do certain tasks now. It can improve your relationship with clients. And this is a lot of times where scope creep is good. Sometimes the client will say, hey, can we please add this function to the website? And you might think, oh, you know what? It's very simple. Won't take me long. It'll improve my relationship with the client. Yeah, absolutely. Don't worry about it. We'll eat the cost on that one. That's one way of going about it. You can add it to your costs and get the customer to pay for it. That's fine. But scope creep can also be a way of improving that relationship with the client. But you need to be careful because the word creep here indicates that it creeps slowly into something a lot bigger than you expected. If you keep adding function 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it's going to get into a scope that you didn't define boundaries for very well. It's going to break through these boundaries. It's going to turn into a completely different project sometimes. You're going to end up spending so much time on all the different items that were added and ignoring the core items of the project, the work breakdown structure that you put from the beginning. Now, on a lot of projects, what you'll find is something known as a change control board. And it's a very formalized and structured way of managing changes. So, client will say, hey, we need to make a change here because of so and so and so. Fine. Let's take this change back to a change control board. It's essentially a team of people who are on the project, who review this change, review its impact in terms of cost and risk and scope creep, and approve or decline the change. It's a very, very structured way of managing changes on a project. Right. So we've covered quite a lot to do with scope management here, and I hope you can see just how tricky it can become. We started by defining a structure for how we're going to go about scope management in general, all the way from planning to defining the scope to validating. We talked about work breakdown structures, and we talked a little bit about how we're going to manage changes to the scope. All right, we'll stop it here and we'll see you on the next.